Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Cat's Whiskers TV podcast. Today is Thursday the 5th of March 2015 and my name is Aaron Lord and I'll be standing in for Jono this week. Joining me on the show are Adam Reddish and Andy Haywood as we look back on Scotland triple header for the Panthers, and we're joined by Ryan Finnerty of the Braehead Clan. We'll also look back at the visit of the Hull Stingrays to the Capital FM Arena on Wednesday night, and we'll ask the question, what does Sheffield's win against the Braehead Clan on Wednesday night actually mean for the Elite League title race? We'll pick our winner from the Cardiff Devils and the Sheffield Steelers for this year's Challenge Cup final, before answering your questions on Ask CWTV. And finally, we'll look ahead to the visit of the Braehead Clan this coming Saturday. But that's enough of me talking. It's time for this. So joining me on this week's podcast is Mr. Andy Haywood. You all right, mate?
Yeah, not bad, you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, mate. And joining us this week, friend of the show, Mr. Adam Reddish. How are you, buddy?
I'm very good, thanks. Backed by absolutely no popular demand whatsoever.
Yeah, we were struggling to get guests, basically, so that's what it is. But right, boys, let's wind the clock back to last Friday, up in Braehead, the start of the Scottish weekend. We were live on Premier Sports. Braehead, top of the league, fighting for the title. And sadly, Panthers didn't come away with the win, a 4-2 victory for the Clan. But I actually thought that Panthers possibly started the better. And we came out of the blocks a little bit better than Braehead. And we got the first goal, which always helps, doesn't it, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we looked quite dangerous going forward at times, and created some really good chances. And obviously, the goal that Jacina scored to get us on the board first was nothing more than we deserved, really. And it wasn't the flashiest of goals, but it was just general hard work by that line. And it was fantastic skill and awareness by Farmer to, rather than try and put the puck on net, just lay it back to Jacina. I actually thought that he'd try to shoot originally, and he luckily just landed at Jacina's stick. But when you watch the replays back on Premier Sports, you see quite clearly that he looks where Jacina is and makes an absolutely wonderful pass. And it was one of them things where, like you say, to start the game, we were playing quite well, and the goal was just rewards. But at the end of the day, they were the home team and they're the best team in the league. And, realistically, they were always going to be favourites in that game. But I think we played all right. I don't think we were particularly spectacular. But by the same token, I think it was a massive improvement on what we've seen in the past weeks.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that, to be honest. But I was speaking to Neil, the coach Russell, and Aaron Murphy, because obviously it was live on Premier Sports. Speaking to them after the game, Adam, and they said the first period it was a bit, bit and bobby. It was stop-start, and obviously, Braehead got back in it with Stefan Meyer's goal, but it really seemed that in the second period, Braehead kind of came out the traps, and it was obviously Finner had a word with them, and they just sort of took it away from us, didn't they? 2 power play goals.
Yeah.
But I think the Panthers put in a decent performance, but Braehead just took it away from us, really, didn't they?
I think they did. What Andy was saying there was absolutely on the mark. Braehead have got a lot to play for. They're going for their first league title. The way that we've been playing lately, we went up to Scotland, we went up to Braehead with no real kind of aspirations of getting anything from that game. Well, I personally didn't anyway, because I thought that, the game would be much more lopsided than it eventually was. And, like you were saying, we were in it in the first period. It wasn't, fluent hockey by any stretch of the imagination, but, we were in it and we got the first goal, which, takes the crowd out of it to a certain degree. But yeah, the effort was there, and I think, that's probably what the Panthers fans wanted to see on Friday night against the Clan, because we knew they'd be, ultra competitive. We knew they'd be going for every puck, going into the corners. They've had their problems with ill discipline over the season, so you're always going to get a rough ride, and keep your heads up when you're on the ice at Braehead. But we tried, and ultimately we failed just short. But I think the effort was there, and with a bit more luck, we might have got a point out of that game. I know we finished it fairly strongly, and trying to get that third goal back. Unfortunately, we just couldn't quite get it to set us up for an equaliser. But I think in the whole, it was a reasonably good performance on Friday night.
I mean, I was speaking to Ryan Finnerty after the game, and we've got a short interview coming up with him in a few minutes. But like Adam just said there, Andy, in the third period, it was pretty much, Panthers just trying to get that goal. And I know, Braehead, they had injuries. They lost Esders to a shoulder injury, I believe, and they were obviously 2 D-man down through suspension. But I just want to mention Kyle Jones, because we outshot the Clan 34-23, but and rightly so, Kyle Jones got the man of the match for the Braehead Clan. But he's really come on leaps and bounds this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. He's always been a decent netminder, but until this season, he wasn't one that you sort of said personally. I wouldn't have said was one of the top 3 netminders. This year, he's right up there, and ultimately number 1 for me in his play. And the way we came at him at third period, we had 15 shots and Braehead had 4. So, regardless of everything else that happened during that game, you've got to say that Kyle Jones kept them in it and enabled them to get that W.
Definitely. Like I say, putting in the man of the match performance, I think, just rounded that off. So just let's go through the stats for the game. Obviously a 4-2 win for the Clan. The Clan goals coming from Stefan Meyer, 2 goals, Keith 1 and Roll 2. 2 power play goals in there. Man of the matches were Brandon Benedict and, like we've just mentioned, Kyle Jones for the Clan. So obviously we've talked about the game from a Panthers point of view, but what did head coach Ryan Finnerty of the Braehead Clan think of the game?
Delighted to welcome Ryan Finnerty to the Cats Whiskers podcast. Ryan, obviously a fantastic victory tonight.
Yeah, obviously under the circumstances, like we talked about, it's anytime you're playing a team like Nottingham, I thought they threw a lot at us today. They threw a lot we haven't seen, and we were down pretty depleted, especially on the back end. So we caught ourselves defending a lot and relying on Jonesy even more. But to get a win, anytime you get a win in this stage, it doesn't matter if you play good or bad, you're happy. But to beat Nottingham in that fashion is good for us.
I mean, just obviously talking about Jones there, I mean, I know you've mentioned earlier on in the season that he's been, just a star for you, but again tonight, he was just a brick, really, wasn't he? It was just everything that the Panthers threw, he kind of mopped it up.
Yeah, I thought he was squared almost everything, and they created some great chances on their entries. They created chances with high rolls with their D, and these are things that we haven't seen a lot of, and they caught us off guard. And anytime they did, I mean, Jonesy made it look easy. He was swallowing up rebounds. We were getting the rebounds, and on another night when the puck's not falling for you, it could easily have gone against us. So fortunate to get out of it, but also at the same time kind of proud by the way we defended, and I thought we competed hard. We were in 4D, and Zach Sullivan, a 20-year-old rookie playing every other shift. He doesn't see that much ice, and we got some good performances from Tristan Harper and guys that don't typically see a lot of ice. So it was good, and good in that fashion, and hopefully we can take some confidence out of that and keep going forward here.
I mean, just talking about confidence, obviously, beating the Panthers is always, a big result, whoever you are. But obviously going into your next game on Sunday against, Fife here, obviously that's got to give you massive confidence. And is it just another game now, do you regroup, or, is it all about Fife now?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen Fife for a while, and we got lucky we got tomorrow off because we need it, and we'll kind of reassess what kind of lineup we'll have on Sunday, and, hopefully we got enough to legally play. But no, it's Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's putting a game plan in place and finding a way to win and getting through 60 minutes on top and moving on to the next one. It's a little overwhelming to look at the schedule. It doesn't get any easier. We're into Sheffield, into Nottingham next weekend. So, yeah, it is kind of a game-by-game old cliche and whatever it is, but realistically, it's all you can do for us right now. And it's good. We're, winning this way, too, builds character and guys become tighter. And, sometimes you can dominate a team and win, and you walk out and pat yourself on the back, but these are the kind of wins where you may have got outplayed and you defended, but you had to kind of alter your game and you rely on your goalie. But those are the kind of ones you walk out and you got a lot more satisfaction out of. And I know they're tough to lose because we've been on the other end of them. And I know when you throw everything at them and you can't beat them, it's frustrating, from Corey's standpoint. But for us, I mean, selfishly, we just take it and move on, man.
Well, just very quickly, we'll wrap this up now. But obviously, at the end there, you've brought the Gardner Conference back to the Braehead Clan. I mean, this fan base here that you've got here, I mean, it's just incredible, aren't they? They're just right behind you all the way, and it's quite intimidating for the opposition, and you must be very, proud of the fans and very, proud of what they bring to the team.
Yeah, no, I think it feels like we kind of, in a way, kind of grown together over the last couple of years. We've really kind of, seen a massive increase in the fan base, and I mean, the day one fans have always been there and they've always been passionate, and now they've brought along more people, and it's a great atmosphere, and a lot of them are new to hockey, so they don't have that nostalgia and like maybe Sheffield and you guys have, and so they just support us no matter what, and we put a good performance on, win or lose, they're always supportive of the guys, or they don't get too down right now, and that may change in 10 years, but it's unbelievable to play in front of them, and you've seen tonight, it's a great atmosphere. They're right on top of you, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun playing when it's like that, and this has kind of typically been the crowds we've been getting, and it's probably fun for both teams, but you're right, it's a bit intimidating, but it's like when you go into Nottingham, the NIC, it's sold out, and you're thinking, oh, here we go. I've been there a number of times here. I got to fight Bruce Richardson. All right.
Just another night.
There we go. Yeah, but no, it's good for the whole league, right?
Yeah.
When other teams are obviously, you guys set the bar there, and everybody's trying to kind of to get up to that standard, and for us here, and pretty young team, we're growing and hopefully closing the gap here. But no, we're happy. I'm rambling on. I'm happy. I just want to get out of here. I'm glad I don't have to do anything tomorrow, and I might have to play again.
Well, on that note, I'll wish you good luck for Sunday and obviously the rest of the season. So well done, mate.
Thanks, bud.
All right, cheers.
So that was Ryan Finnerty's view on the Braehead v Panthers game. So moving on to our second game in 3 nights against the Dundee Stars, looking to pick up a W, but unfortunately going down 3-2 to the Stars. Adam, obviously, bouncing back straight away from a loss is very important, and we obviously was on this bad run of losses, but we didn't really start great in the Dundee game. I thought it was very lackadaisical, but which obviously meant that Dundee raced into a 2-0 lead in the first period. So quite disappointing, really, from a Panthers point of view. You'd expect us to come out in that game and try and dominate it from the start, or at least show the passion and try and get on the board early.
Yeah. I mean, I was expecting us to start that game the way we finished the Clan game the night before. Really going for it. Getting plenty of rubber on net on the netminder, who's not had a great season for Dundee, but I don't think many players have had great seasons for Dundee personally. But yeah, it was a bit flat. From what I saw, it didn't really paint Panthers in a very positive light in that first period. We seemed very, very slow and lethargic from the first minute, from the first drop of the puck. And, obviously 2-0 down, 2 pretty poor goals to give up, in all honesty. The first goal, what were the defence doing? They seemed to be like statues. There's just no reaction at all. It's like the puck moving around in front of the net, and obviously it was slapped into the back of the net. That's not the greatest start that you wanted. But then, it just seemed like we had no real zip. It was all very flat, and I really would have expected us to try and atone for that defeat the night before. But for one reason or another, I don't know, we just came out flat. We weren't skating hard. Weren't going into the corner for the pucks. And, you can't really have any arguments about being, 2-0 down at the end of the first period.
No, I fully agree, to be honest. But, Andy, obviously with that first period being pretty poor from the Panthers, you'd hope that in the second we'd see a little bit more. But, there was no scoring in the second period, and it was just kind of a period that could, kind of just washed us by, and that's disappointing, isn't it? Because you, like I said earlier, you want to try and get on the board early, and it just put extra pressure on the third period.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way that the shots panned out, just looking at the stats, we had 11 in the first period and 9 in the second. You would think that being 2 goals down, they would operate more of a attacking sort of style, and really try and get the game back against Dundee. At the end of the day, when you're 2 goals down, you are going to attack, but by the same token, you've conceded 2 goals, so you've also got to be careful about what goes in at the other end. But the problem that I think we have at the moment is goal scoring again, purely because of the bodies and who's out, as opposed to not necessarily the numbers that are out, but it's the people that are out as much as anything else. And I think that was sort of prevalent by Friday night's game as well. But obviously the fact that we went 40 minutes in Dundee without really troubling Chevrolet. And it's like you said, especially when you're going in after the first 20 and you're 2 goals down, you expect a bit of a response, a bit of a reaction from the players, and when a period sort of washes over like it did, it doesn't help perceptions of the team.
No, very true, very true. And I think that is possibly, if you ask a lot of Panthers fans, that's what disappointed them most up there at the time, to be honest. But obviously the third period comes in, and Panthers finally get a couple of goals. Mosey with the first one, which obviously Doucet, and I think we have to give credit where credit is due. I felt Doucet worked incredibly hard for the 2 goals that Panthers got. Obviously the first one through Mosey, he works very hard to get the puck, on the red line, and then he kind of breaks away, and Mosey's there 2-on-1, past it, and Mosey is not really going to miss from there, or shouldn't miss from there. But what's disappointing, and what I found was frustrating even more so, was you could see that we were starting to build, and it was like, Adam, that we kind of realised that, hang on, we need to actually put a bit of effort in here to actually get back in the game. Yeah. And that's what's frustrating, isn't it? That it suddenly seems at certain times this season that it kind of clicks in the Panthers' minds that, hang on a minute, we need to step up a gear.
Yeah.
And why can't we do that from the off? That's disappointing, and like I say, it's frustrating, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely infuriating for a Panthers fan, to see that, and to see the team almost switch personas almost at the drop of a hat, going from good Panthers to bad Panthers and back to good Panthers and then a bit more bad Panthers. That really is frustrating. I think on Saturday night, that third period, perhaps professional pride kicked in. They were playing Dundee, and Dundee have had an absolute shocking season. Find themselves 2-0 down at the end of the second, and then 3-0 down early in the third period. Something must have just clicked in the back of their mind that, hang on, they're playing Dundee here, and no disrespect to Dundee, but they're down at the bottom of the table for a reason. And I know we're depleted in numbers, and yet, like Andy says, we've got some key players out at the moment. But even a few bodies short against a team with such low confidence as Dundee, you think that we'd be on the front foot, and we'd actually start the game all guns blazing. That didn't happen, but at least in the third period, try and claw something back. And eventually we did, and as you say, Doucet did really well for the 2 goals that we did score. And the second one, he showed really good and strong determination, to not be thrown off the puck and skating off the blue line. And it seemed like the puck was just glued to the end of his stick, and he had 2 or 3 players hanging off him, and still managed to, find the back of the net. So it was that's great. I do say he's been a real positive for me, but just fell a bit short on Saturday. But it's a really, really tough one to take. When you look at the Panthers losing to the team at the bottom of the standings, it makes you wonder what quite is happening there. And, it'd be a greater hockey mind than mine to actually put the finger on what's going wrong, I'm afraid.
Well, let's talk about the third period. I mean, one incident in that third period is the Lawrence Farmer Plumpton incident, and Lawrence gets a game misconduct for cross-checking. Farmer and Plumpton get game misconducts for roughing. How it was roughing, I'll never know. But that kind of seemed to kick-start the Panthers as well, and like you say, Adam, it just wasn't enough. Sadly, we tried in the last 10 minutes and we showed the effort, but a game of hockey is 60 minutes minimum, and we really should have showed that effort from the start. But just going back to that Lawrence, incident. I mean, at the time, I thought Lawrence. I was quite nervous, to be honest, because I thought a ban might be coming Lawrence's way, and I think obviously from what you heard and read, Andy, you kind of felt the same. You felt that the talk was that Dops might get involved in this.
Yeah, absolutely. From what I've read online, and obviously from what I've heard from various people, everybody seemed to think that Lawrence was gonna feel the wrath of Dops for what he'd done, and rightly or wrongly, somehow he's managed to come away scot-free. So it seemed a bit of a shock, that's for sure, when everybody seems so certain that something's going to happen, and then nothing happens. It just seems so odd that, like I say, everybody was adamant that Lawrence was going to be missing at least for Sunday game against Edinburgh because of his actions, and then lo and behold, it gets to game time on Sunday and he's on the ice for warm up, and all of a sudden it's wow,
yeah,
we've got away with one there.
Yeah, it did feel like that on the Sunday, to be honest. I mean, Adam, you saw it at the time. You saw it, on the highlights, and I must say at the time I thought I was more concerned about Lawrence, and I didn't really pay much attention to Jeff Hutchins' role in it. And if I'm honest, I don't think, looking back at the highlights, that Hutchins is 100% innocent. I mean, what did you make of it from obviously just seeing it on the highlights? What 50-50, 75 to Lawrence, or how did you see it?
Well, I agree with Andy that I think Lawrence got away with it big time there. I think it's nice to actually get a lucky break from not having somebody referred to Dobbs for a lengthy ban. But you're right. Hutchins wasn't entirely blameless in the whole incident. He seemed absolutely desperate to stop Farmer engaging Plumpton. And it actually turned against him a little bit there. But I think we need to look at Farmer's role in this as well. Yet again, trying to police the whole team and doing a valiant job. He's trying his best to look out for teammates all over the ice. And, he's standing up and he's being counted. And, obviously the last few weeks have been really, really grim. But I think Farmer's definitely been a shining light across that period.
Well, we'll come on to maybe Farmer's role in a little bit later when we go to the Ask CWTVs, because somebody mentions Farmer in relation to another incident that we'll talk about. So let's just wrap up the stats from the Dundee game. Obviously a 3-2 victory for the Dundee Stars. Panthers goals coming from Mosey and Doucette. Stars goal from Mackenzie, Lust and Grimshaw. We've mentioned about the players being given game misconduct, but man of the matches, Brandon Benedict for the Panthers and Shane Lust for the Dundee Stars. And we outshot the Stars 33-21, which if you're listening and you boys, let's I'll come on to the stats regarding shots on goal at the weekend, because I think it makes for interesting reading. But let's fast forward to Sunday night. Third game out of three, tiredness, and you're thinking, Edinburgh, that they've played very well at times this season, with We've also lost in Murrayfield this season, so we wasn't exactly going in there in confidence. But finally, Andy, we got the much needed victory.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never particularly easy going to Edinburgh, because there's always that expectation that you should be pulling out the victories, and they've got a decent enough team that they're going to pull out a few surprises as they go along, especially at home. So going there was always going to be a potential banana skin, and in the embarrassment stakes of getting a no-point weekend when you're playing 3 games. So getting the win was much needed for Panthers. It gave them a bit of a kick, a bit of morale, which is something that we now surely need to be using, so we can at least try and salvage whatever we can out of this season in the playoffs.
Yeah, true, very true. I mean, I think one thing that is very different to that game is that we actually got the first goal. And that goal came from one of your favourite ever players, Adam Perron. So, but I think that, let's not underestimate how important it was that we actually did get that first goal, because I think that just settled everybody down. It just, it put us not in a driving seat, but it gave us a little bit of confidence, and that's what we've been lacking, isn't it, really?
It is. I mean, the team over the last few weeks have looked like they've been playing with an absolutely chronic lack of confidence. A lot of the stuff they've been trying has just not worked. The systems have been attacked that have come from Nielsen. Rightly or wrongly, I suppose the results and the points speak for themselves. But the players have to stand up and be counted as well. And I mean, the first goal on Sunday night is important. I'm sure there was some stinging criticism in the ears of the players after the Dundee game the night before. So they need to go out and show the coach that they mean business. And that first goal from Perron, obviously puts us in a position where we can start to control and manage the game a bit. Yeah,
and I think we actually did that on Sunday. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't fantastic. You could possibly say that, Edinburgh played quite poorly, and that's possibly why it made us look a little bit better. But at the end of the day, we did score 5 goals, and we managed to pick the 2 points up. And overall, over a weekend, I think it was very important that we did manage to get a win. And if we talk about the stats in that game, obviously the 5 goals, as we've just mentioned, the first goal coming from Perron. Lakovic got a goal which is much needed, I think, for Bobby from Beeston, shall we say. Farmer with 2. Adam, you mentioned Farmer's role in the team so far this season, and we'll come back to that. And Graham getting on the score sheet as well. The 3 goals for the Caps came from Ricks, Hartman and Yarrelin. Man of the matches, Perron for the Panthers, and Benedict for Caps, spelt differently but pronounced the same apparently. Work that one out yourselves. But we actually outshot the Caps 27-16. Just a couple of points from the weekend, so we wrap this up, boys. Shots on goal for the Panthers over the weekend, 93. Shots against, 60. Very quickly, both of you, and I'll come to you first, Andy. Do you think that just highlights, where we are missing at the moment?
Yeah, I think it does, really. I think with the players that we've got missing, I don't think that helps, because, you're looking at defensive-wise, you're looking at Steve Lee and Cody Wild, who is the 2 guys that our transition play relies on the most. And then obviously you're missing key point scorers, goal scorers and assists. And you need these guys in your lineup to score your goals. I think over the past few years you've seen Panthers adopt almost like a shoot on sight policy with regards scoring goals against teams. But I think this, with the players that we've had out injured, you really notice that the quality of the shots on goals are not as good as they perhaps should be for a team of our standards. But I think shots on goal wise, that's the type of return that Panthers were probably looking for from 3 games in Scotland. But realistically, the goal scored was always less than 2 of the other teams. So we've got to start putting the puck in the net, and as much as you're missing, we're missing skilled guys to put the puck in the net. There's no reason why hard work and determination and getting to the front of the crease and looking for rebounds and stuff like that. There's no reason why we can't still do that.
Yeah, and I think, to be fair to Corey Nielsen and Rick Strachan, they've said, at the end of the day, we've got to put more on net, and we've actually got to eventually put more pucks in net. So obviously they're fully aware, and I think us as a fan base are aware that that's where we're kind of struggling at the moment. But just very quickly to you, Adam, any surprise to see K-Wall play 2 of the games and Modic 1 of the games up in Scotland?
Not really. I think you'd expect K-Wall to start the game in Braehead on Friday night. And then, I don't know about K-Wall's injury status and how fit he is. Obviously, he's back playing now, but, perhaps it's one of those injuries that needs to be managed, which might not necessarily mean he's up to playing, 2 games in 2 nights. So I expect that's probably a large reason behind why Modi got the start in Dundee on Saturday night. But I do recall from the highlights, though, on Saturday from the Dundee game that Rick Strachan was less than complimentary of the net minding, from Modig, especially with one of the strange goals that Dundee scored, where it seemed to like drifting at the near post, and Modig didn't seem ready and set for that. So perhaps you can read into that comment that perhaps the coaching staff don't really think that Modig's in great form at the moment, which means that you get K-Wall back in net for the Sunday night game in Edinburgh, and obviously I think we'll probably go with K-Wall. When the playoffs come around, he's your number 1 guy. He's been with us for a number of years, and he's never really let us down. So I think that's probably a little insight into the coaching staff's thinking for who's going to get the big games in the weeks to come.
So let's finally wrap the Scottish weekend up, because obviously we've talked about it for quite a while now. But I just want very quickly, Andy, how many points did you expect?
Probably 4, really.
Okay, 4 for you. Adam, how many points did you expect?
Yep, same with me. 4. I thought we'd get points at Stars and the Caps.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, that's possibly what most of the Panthers Nation thought as well. I mean, Kim Whitaker, for example, on Twitter said, I expected 2 out of 3 wins. Sadly disappointed. We were terrible, in my honest opinion. We only got 1 win, as Caps were slightly worse than us. So I do think, obviously, a lot of fans were expecting us to pick up 4 points and maybe hoping that we got something out of the Braehead game. But we did come out with a win, be it just the 2 points, and obviously that put more pressure maybe on the game that played last night, as we record this on Thursday night, against the Hull Stingrays. And thoughts, Andy, on the first period? Mine were that it wasn't exactly a fantastic game of hockey, and didn't really inspire us to believe it was going to change much, but it got slightly better in the second.
Yeah, absolutely. First period there was no style, no finesse, no anything really, no real energy, no atmosphere, no nothing. But realistically, that's the type of thing that doesn't get notched up on the stat sheet at the end of the game. I think first period wise, both teams had flashes. Especially at the start of the period, the very start of the period, Hull had a couple of really good chances. But the second period we came out and we scored that power play goal sort of towards the end of the period. And I've got to admit that although we went 2 from 9 on the evening on the power play, I thought it actually looked a lot better than it has done for a long time. The interplay and the passing and the chances that we created from the power play are promising signs, because it's coming towards the business end of the season. That's going to be a really important part of the game is the special teams. And to be fair, I actually thought the third period we played really well. Obviously, we're not going to be happy with the goals that we conceded in the third period, to concede them 10 seconds apart. And although the third one was tipped, they were practically identical plays by Hull as well. The team aren't going to be happy about that, but they hung on and they did what was needed. and ultimately that's all you can ask for if you're going to get the 2 points.
I mean, obviously you've just mentioned the power play, and Adam, we managed to score 2 power play goals on the night. Obviously the first one by Perron and the second one by Lawrence. And Andy mentioned it earlier on when we were talking about Scotland, and we're talking about the players that were actually missing. And at times, like Andy says, that power play did seem to be improving on what we've seen previously, and you've got players on that power play line like Perron, like Brian Schmidt, that really should be sat on the bench, really, shouldn't they? Looking at the players like Higgins, Wild, Cohen, Bruce Graham. So, it's possibly promising that we managed to get 2 power play goals.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Aaron. It's not helpful in the slightest to have your key guys that would be expected to log most of the power play time, sat in the stands injured. So the guys that remain in need to just get on with the job of trying to find a way to score on the power play. And, as you say, last night we were successful twice, which, bodes well for the weeks ahead. And hopefully as some of those key guys that do log big minutes on the power play come back, then, things can start to get a bit better in that regard. So, but yeah, last night's game was fairly strange in some ways because it was a very, very slow start, and not a great deal happened. But I thought, we pushed the accelerator at the right time in the third period. And it was, unfortunate to concede those 2 late goals and, make the end of the game a lot closer than it really needed to be. But, at this stage of the season, it's just about, stringing the wins together. And, when you're coming off the back of a long losing streak in the league, then, the team and the players need to learn how to win again. So, it was a bit of a scratchy win, I suppose, if you look at the game as a whole. But, a W down on the sheet of paper, you can't really turn your nose up at that.
I mean, you've just mentioned the C word there and that's confidence. And I did feel that the first period at times, Andy, it's just... We just look, and who blames them to a certain degree, because they're getting pillared from post via either injuries or as fans are not exactly happy with how we're playing, and the L's keep coming in the column, but we just looked absolutely shot of confidence at times, and that's causing individual errors, turnovers, etc. So do you think the fact that we've managed to pick 2 wins up on the bounce now will hopefully, build that confidence back up that we maybe saw, around the Christmas time or even the Belfast, home double-header?
Absolutely, you'd like to think so. Ultimately, the proof will be in the pudding if it is. But you'd certainly like to think that we've got a couple of wins under our back. Obviously, we've got a tough game on Saturday against Braehead, I believe. So that's not going to be easy in the slightest. But by the same token, we picked, like you say, we've picked up a couple of wins on the bounce. We've started to score a couple of goals, which is nice. We've got a couple of power play markers, which is also very nice. And you've got to start looking at what we want to do and where we go from here now. I think now is a perfectly good time to kick on. And I think it'd be nice if we had some bodies back. Because God knows we need them.
It'd be very nice.
But by the same token, we say it time and time again. Regardless of the injuries, you need to still pick up the wins, and this is going to be where the problem lies. Is if we are able to do this while we're still short on bodies and short on numbers, especially like we said before, when you consider the players that we are missing. I'd like to think now that although we've got a tough game on the Saturday, I'd like to think with the home team, we've perhaps picked up a little bit of confidence after a real slump where nothing seemed to go right. So if we get the win on Saturday, against Braehead, I think it's a really good chance to really kick on now, and like I said earlier on, try and at least salvage something out of this season.
I mean, there's still 2 things to play for, like we said in previous podcast. But you mentioned injuries, and sadly, Adam, it's potentially looking like Bruce Graham might be on the sidelines for some time. We don't actually know at the moment. We're just hearing, words of potential serious injury there. There's no broken bones in the hand, but this could lead to other injuries in his hand. I mean, at the time, obviously, 5-10 in the third period gone. Bruce Graham hit from behind from Turcotte, and Dean Smith sees it as a 2+10 misconduct penalty for checking from behind. I have to say, I think he got massively away with it there. I mean, where I sit in block 15, it's not the best view, and maybe, Adam, where you sit, and Andy, where you sit, you might be able to see it better, but it looked a nasty hit, and I thought at the time, that's game at least. It's a game misconduct, out you go. But he got a 2+10. What do you think? What do you think, Adam? What do you think? Yes, well, no, got it right.
Yeah, well, it looked nasty. I mean, it happened right in front of me in block 13, and I just. Yeah, it was a nasty hit. You could see the intent was there. I think Turcotte was incredibly lucky not to get tossed from the game for that. Other referees might have, come to a different conclusion on it. You just don't know, do you? It's the inconsistency of refereeing in the Elite League.
Very true. Very well put. And just a quick mention, Andy, for the real British Bulldog, Jonathan Boxhill. Getting in a good scrap with Havato, and it was pretty fair, but both of them, went in the box, gave the thumbs up, and that's always nice to see that they appreciate each other. And it was an all right fight, wasn't it? But fair play.
Yeah, I mean, it was more bit of wrestling, bit of slap and tickle, but it's good that these guys are sticking up for each other, and The hit was bad. I mean, I'm pretty certain, if I remember correctly, that those two fought earlier on in the season, and I missed how the actual fight started. I just saw the gloves on the ice and immediately turned around and saw Havato and Boxhill, embraced and swinging punches. So I actually missed how it started, but by all accounts, it sort of came out of nowhere almost. So it wouldn't surprise me first to have had a bit of history. Something was said or anything along those lines. But it's good. It's good that we've got guys that are willing to do that, because we've seen time and time again that there's other instances where they're not. And my case in point will be the injury to Bruce Graham, where it was a bad hit. Yes, it put us on the power play for 2 minutes, but it put us on a 2-minute power play. Realistically, if that was all we were going to get, I'd far rather see someone go over and challenge Turcotte for the hit, and try and get some retribution that way, because we didn't get it from the officiating. And so that's slightly disappointing in that sense. Yes, we haven't got an out-and-out sort of fighter, but we've got some guys who are big enough and ugly enough that they should be able to stick up for themselves and their teammates. So that was slightly disappointing.
Well, I think that, just going back to the fight, I think if watching the highlights and actually watching the interview with Boxy afterwards, it sort of mentioned that Havato was talking through the national anthem. Boxy had a word with him at the start, face off, and then I think it kind of that was the brewing process, shall we say, which led to the fight. But I mean, it ended up with a Panthers victory. 4-3. Panthers goals coming from Perron, Lawrence on the power play, both of those goals, Jacina and Berube, which a lot of fans will probably go hallelujah, but I think fair play to Berube. And
Berube's goal was incredible as well.
It was a very well worked goal as
really, well. Really well worked goal, and he picked his spot, and it was a stunning finish.
I mean, Berube gets a lot of stick from the Panthers fan base, and I'm not a I am not a fan, but I think he's got his good points. Don't get me wrong, I also think he can improve in a lot of areas, but talk of him being the worst import that this league has ever seen, I think is very, very harsh. And the 3 goals for the Stingrays coming from Jameson, Frederick and Knox. So man of the match is Jonathan Boxhill and Brendan Jameson, and it was a 4-3 victory to the Hull Stingrays. So overall, to the Panthers. Sorry, well done, Adam. Yes,
it's so used to saying that we've lost.
Exactly, that must be it. Yes, but obviously it brought us 2 wins on the bounce. Just very briefly, let's talk about other things in the Elite League before we wrap this section up, guys. Braehead facing Sheffield last night in Ice Sheffield, a 2-0 victory for the Steelers. Does that make it interesting for the league title, or do you still think it's Braehead's to lose, guys? Briefly.
Well, I still subscribe to the fact that Braehead are the favourites. Whether they're the champions-elect, like some people seem to think, I don't know. But I certainly think they're the favourites for the title. But from a neutral perspective, because as Panthers fans we are now somewhat neutral. Although the 2 teams involved, many people will see it as not neutral. But personally, from a neutral sort of perspective, it is great for the league, but it's so close. It creates a bit of interest. There's more than just the league title now at stake with regards to the news on the CHL. So obviously, there's more reasons to win games than ever. For the league, it was a good result that Sheffield won. I personally don't think it will be enough for Sheffield. Like I say, I think Braehead are the favourites, and I personally think they will win it. I don't think it will be as easy as a lot of people seem to think it will be for them, because there's going to be an awful lot of teams that are going to try and stop them now. They're the ones with the target on their back, and it remains to be seen whether they'll be able to stick with it. But yeah, I think it keeps it interesting. Yeah.
I mean, including us, who will be looking to try and derail that Braehead Clan bus, although it properly got derailed last night, actually, by the engine blowing up. So there you go. And just quickly, Adam, the Challenge Cup final on Sunday sees Steelers versus the Devils. I mean, that should really be quite a good game. It's a piece of silverware that neither of them have won for a while. Who's your tip for that one?
Oh, as much as it pains to say me, I can't really look past Sheffield for that one, given that it's in their own building. The fans
it's a neutral venue. Come on, Adam. It's a neutral
come off it. Well, put it this way: there'll be far more Sheffield fans in the arena than there will Cardiff, I'd expect. So, whilst it might be badged as a neutral venue, I think everything points towards it being plenty of teal and orange in the stands around Sheffield Arena. So they're going to have the noise, aren't they, from the fans? They're going to have the support. They'll want to win it on the home ice. But yeah, I think it'll be a close game. I don't think there'll be a blowout one way or the other. But I could probably see Sheffield maybe winning by 1 or 2 tops.
I wouldn't underestimate the noise of the Red Army, and I think there'll be a fair few Cardiff Devils making the trip down there. But Andy, Steelers, Devils, one word?
Devils.
Devils, there you go then. So, just looking at the league title, the Elite League standings, should I say. Braehead in first on 67 points from 47 games played. Sheffield in second, 64 from 46. Cardiff in third, 62 for 45. And really, do we need to talk about anything else in the Elite League standings? No, not really, apart from maybe Coventry in 7th and Hull in 8th. So there's still a battle for the playoff places, and it's all going to come to a head very, very shortly. Moving on to the Ask CWTV part of the podcast, and if you'd like to get in touch with us here on Cat's Whiskers, then you can do via Twitter. Our handle is @CatsWhiskersTV, and if you want to ask us a question, then just use the hashtag AskCWTV. So the first one comes from apparently a Mr. Jono Bullard, who I think is currently in the plunge pool at Sherwood Forest Centre Parks. So what are are your views on Panthers fans who want Clan to win on Saturday to damage Steelers' title chances? Adam, I'll come to you first on that one.
Oh, I don't know. That's a really tough one to answer. You look for the best from your own team, don't you? You want your own team to go out there and win every game. I know that doesn't happen, but you want the team to put the most effort in. It's difficult. I'm torn. I think most Panthers fans will be torn to some degree over the outcome of the game on Saturday. It might sound like a bit of a cop-out, but I just hope it's a good game.
That is a cop-out, and you cannot answer this question anymore. So we'll move on to Andy. Your thoughts?
I think we're, as much as a lot of people are happy to see the back of this season, we're at a crucial point of our season now. And, I want to see us kick on. I want to see us get back to that form that we saw around Christmas time and at the Belfast doubleheader. It's time to really start, looking at trying to string a few wins together. I can understand why some people would want Braehead to beat us. Personally, I couldn't think of anything worse in that regards. I just think it's I could, like I say, I appreciate why people do it. Personally, I don't have that much of a care or hatred of Sheffield that it would make me angry if they won the league. Yes, it would be disappointing because it's not us, ultimately. But if we're not going to win it, why shouldn't Sheffield win it? So the best team at the end of the day will be the ones that lift the Monteith Bowl. And if that's Sheffield, then it's Sheffield.
Wow, I think that's pretty much a resignation for this podcast, to be honest, Andy, if that's your view. But no, only joking, mate. I think, to be fair, a lot of people have said that, just going through the Twitter that we've had, let's go to Panthers mascot, Pause. He's put, I want us to win every game. It's up to Clan to win the league. If they're good enough, they will win it. A Helen Bullard, who I don't think is in the plunge pool, or I hope she isn't, said, I would very much like us to win, as in the Panthers, but I cannot see it happening. Hashtag I feel dirty just saying that. And then just, the general feeling is, I think like you said, Andy, that, we've got 2 wins under our belt, and it's now possibly time to kick on and make it 3 and build the momentum, which obviously is a word that we've heard a few times, going towards the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. We're regardless of our league position, we are now at the business end of the season. We're at the season where there's silverware on offer. But to win that silverware, you've got to be exceptionally good. And yes, people will talk about the length of a playoff series and diminish the importance of the playoffs, but at the end of the day, it's still a trophy to win. And as much as we are out of form as our league standing shows, why not us? So to get that, we need to build on some momentum. We need to get some confidence. We need to start scoring some goals and looking like a team that can really challenge. And so to think that, or to want a rival to beat you just so that a bigger rival can't win the league is something that I don't particularly care for. And I'm 99.9% certain that none of the team will be thinking that way either.
No, and to be honest, I hope they're not, actually. But moving on to the next question from Clantastic, a regular on Ask CWTV. He's put, with the playoff weekend sticking with unpopular 3rd, 4th place game, is this EIHL's closed shop now out of stock of fresh ideas? So, Adam, what's your view on the 3rd, 4th place game on the Sunday? And just to tie in quickly with what Raymond Monaghan, who I met in Braehead, and it was very nice to meet you, Ray, and thanks for the beer, like I said. He's put about maybe the GB's under-20 match taking over from that 3rd, 4th game on the Sunday, as it would be a step forward and give the whole crowd something to cheer. I mean, do you think there is any other ideas out there on the table for that Sunday morning / early afternoon?
I don't think so, really. You asked me about what I think of the third, fourth placed playoff game, and it's just a non-entity. It really is. And none of the players want to be there. They'd all rather be elsewhere, dealing with the disappointment of losing the previous day. And the play on the ice reflects that. It's non-checking for the most part. Nobody really wants to, pick up an injury to take into the summer. I always used to enjoy the youth internationals that were played, on that morning at lunchtime on the second day. There was always something riding on it, pride of whether it was going to be England or Scotland that won the game, and I think, England and Scotland, if you look at the fans of the teams in the Elite League now, you've got a fair contingent of Scottish fans that come down. So, I think it's probably time to maybe revisit that again, and it might attract a few more people into the bowl on Sunday lunchtime, and just give people a bit more excitement, because playoff final weekends tickets aren't cheap, and you're looking to get maximum value for that. And I don't think anyone can say that they do get maximum value with a third, fourth place game.
I mean, you do say that about getting maximum value for your price ticket, but it's come out again today that the bowl is 90% sold, and it could be the earliest sellout of the playoff final for a long time. So there's obviously people out there, Andy, that are excited about the playoff weekend, but I very much doubt that 90% or even maybe 50% of the arena will be in there for that third, fourth place game on the Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. It's personally, it's a complete and utter farce. I hate the third and fourth place playoff.
Don't hold back on what you think, Andy. Say what you really feel.
It's ridiculous to expect these players to even be there. They've got every right to just go home. They've lost the biggest game of the season for them. They've lost their last game of the season, and then they're forced to come out into this circus in an attempt to try and entertain the fans for an hour before the big showcase. And I just think that it is pathetic that we still do it. They did it the first time they did it in my memory. Cardiff played, and their starting netminder Jason Cognut played out.
Yeah,
John Braehead didn't bother playing; he just stood behind the plexiglass laughing at everybody. And as much as it's nice that you get to see the players relax and stuff, by the same token, they're not taking it seriously. And neither should they. But by that context, why would anyone want to watch it? Because it is abysmal to watch. It's so poor, and there's got to be some sort of new injection into what to do this afternoon. There's got to be some sort of why not look at the juniors and stuff? Why not incorporate some other tournaments that are going on across the thing? Junior finals and stuff like that. I remember one year, this is probably going back to about 2003 perhaps, they had an EPL game, I believe, because I can't remember the teams involved. I have a feeling one might have been Milton Keynes and possibly Peterborough. But I seem to recall James Morgan, who used to play for Panthers, broke his leg in that match. But they used to have a meaningful game on the Sunday. Whether it be England versus Scotland and it was bragging rights, whether it be an EPL game, whether it be some sort of junior development game, just something where the people involved are actually going to care and put a bit of passion and energy in. And that's not a dig at the teams that finish third and fourth at all, because I fully understand it, and I think it's a joke that they're asked to do it. But the league have got to sort this out, because it is getting ridiculous as to how bad the sort of build up to the final is.
So everybody who's listening, who's going to playoff weekend, expect to see Andy Haywood sat in the arena, ready and raring to watch the third, fourth place game, because he's that excited about it.
The problem is, I will still be there tweeting about it. because I'm an idiot.
Well, you've just said it. You're the idiot, mate. But I think it's a good point. Until the league kind of come up with an idea or find a solution. And I mean, if my memory serves me correctly, I believe there's meant to be this fan interaction at the playoffs. A fan member from each team or something is going to go and speak to the league. So maybe the playoff and the third, fourth game of that weekend is something that might be brought up, and in coming years we might see something a little bit different.
What about a game consisting of supporters of the teams that are there at the weekend?
Oh no, forget that. No.
Lace them up, Aaron.
For several reasons, mainly health and safety, and the fact I would rather watch the third, fourth game than watch a bunch of supporters that are having a nice time, shall I say. Try and skate on the ice. So I tell you what, let's leave Ask CWTV there. Thank you very much for your questions. If we didn't answer them, then I'll try and answer you on Twitter, and we'll make sure that all the guys answer you on Twitter as well. But please do keep coming and sending them in. They're a good part of the show, and we do like to hear from you. So guys, let's move on to Saturday's game against Braehead. We've talked about it a little bit earlier on. Braehead will be looking for revenge, obviously. They'll be looking to try and get to that elusive league title as soon as possible. Andy, Adam, and I'll come to you first, Adam. Do you see, Panthers putting a block in front of them and getting a win, or do you think it'll just be too much for us?
I think it might just be a bridge too far for us, unfortunately. Because obviously we're massively down on numbers at the moment. Again, picked up an injury last night, Bruce Graham. Don't know how bad that is, but it's very unlikely that he'll be ready to ice on Saturday. I think as long as we work hard, and we put the effort in, and we show that we want to compete for every puck, get our noses dirty in the corner, I think that's what the crowd are looking for. Because, Braehead are going for a league title. They'll be very driven, very motivated. They'll be wanting those 2 points on Saturday night. But I think if we show some determination, we take the game to them. Ultimately, we might not have enough in the tank to quite get any points from the game. But I just want to see us work hard. Compete for 60 minutes on Saturday night. And I think if we do that, I don't think many Panthers fans will come out of the arena at the end of the night with any qualms about the the outcome of the game if we do eventually lose. But I do think we'll lose. I think Braehead will get the 2 points. But again, I just want to see the effort there from the guys.
I mean, Andy, obviously, you've mentioned it earlier about the quality of player that we've got sitting in the physio room at the moment. Like Adam says, if we see effort on Saturday night, if we see willing, can we really complain too much if we don't get the win, or do you still think and believe that as a fan base we should be, expecting our current team with the injuries that we've got to go out there and beat, Braehead?
Personally, we could lose every single game of the season, but so long as the effort was there and we battled hard and we tried, and it was there plain for all to see, personally I wouldn't have a problem. Obviously there would be issues if you went a whole season without winning a game. I'm not stupid enough to not believe that. But if teams, if the team plays well and they try hard, even if they lose, personally, that's no problem for me. It's just making sure that we do battle hard and we do compete for the puck at all times, and that's going to be difficult with the players that we're missing. But by the same token, the guys that we've got left are more than capable. They're more than experienced. They know, they've been in situations like this before. They've got to find a way. And I personally think that this game will be a little bit closer than perhaps people are thinking. A betting man would say that Braehead will be favourites because of the team that they've got. They are a good team and they're on a roll. They're looking to bounce back from their loss against Sheffield. and they're top of the league. But stranger things have happened. We took 9 skaters down to London once and beat them in a remarkable game. And like I say, when you've got the injuries and your back's against the wall a little bit, you sort of see what we're made of. And Braehead will be favourites, but I wouldn't put us past us getting a result.
I mean, obviously we hear about the fact that really now it's all about the AHA conference and the playoffs. I mean, just very quickly, Andy, do you think if we lose against Braehead but we see progression in how we're performing and we perform well, but at the end of the day, we hold our hands up, and say, do you know what, we're just missing too many bodies, and Braehead perform better. That should still give us some confidence and belief that when we go into Belfast in a week's time, that we can actually not salvage something from the season, but get something out of it and actually get a win in the conference game that could deliver a trophy for us. Yeah,
absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Winning is important for momentum and stuff like that. But by the same token, so is performances. If you can get good performances out of the players and you play well during the games, you should still be able to get enough confidence and enough momentum out of those games that you can ride that momentum and still get results, even if you have lost games. So I think the way we play on Saturday will be a big bearing on what happens throughout the rest of the season. Yes, obviously it will have no bearing on our league position, and obviously it will surely have a bearing on Braehead's. But I just think realistically, the result perhaps isn't quite as important on Saturday as the performance itself.
So just a quick prediction from you guys. Adam, I'll come to you first. What's your score prediction?
I think it'll be a narrow defeat, probably light in goals. So I'll go for Panthers 2, Clan 3.
And Andy, your score prediction?
I'm going to say 5-4 Panthers in overtime.
5-4 Panthers in overtime. Well, there you go, guys. One of you is going to be right. One of you is going to be wrong as to who wins. The only way you'll find out is getting yourself to the Capital FM Arena on Saturday night. I won't go through all the tickets numbers, but I'm sure there are good seats still available. But no, I'm pretty sure it should be a good game, to be honest. I think it'll just be too much for us. I think Braehead will come here, and if they play smart, talking to Finner up in Braehead as well, if they play smart and they stay out of the box, I think unfortunately they'll just be too much for us. But like you guys have said, as long as we see effort on Saturday, then I won't be too disappointed. But anything else from you guys that you'd like to mention?
Not really. I just think that, like you were saying, the effort is really important to see. I don't think we're going to play fluent hockey. We're just missing too many guys to see fluent hockey at the moment. So it's going to be about graft. It's about getting your noses dirty. Who knows? We might put the effort in and we might, pick up a point in overtime, or even, as Andy says, get all 2 points. But, I just think we need to see effort at the moment, because that can take you a long way, in ice hockey. If you keep building the effort, you keep building the momentum. And hopefully that will serve us in good stead when we get to playoff hockey time.
Well, playoff hockey is just around the corner, really, isn't it? So it's not that long to wait. But, well, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Adam. I know you don't obviously do this, but very, very much welcomed onto the show for standing in for me, who I'm standing in for Jono, if that makes sense.
It does.
Thank you for joining us. And obviously, Andy, thank you for joining us as normal.
No worries at all.
So that is it for this week. Unless there's a grizzly bear in Sherwood Forest, Jono will be back next week as we look back on the Braehead game, and also we'll talk about obviously the Challenge Cup and will it be Devils or will it be Steelers, and obviously the Panthers have a very important double header in Belfast where we could put a stamp on the Earhart Conference. So for now, that's it from us. Join us next week. See you later.